Hey, it's Lemon. Welcome to the Backlogs. Got a new game for you all today, Wuchang Fallen Feathers. What is Wuchang? Well, think Dark Souls, but in the Chinese kingdom of Shu. There's a lot of similarities, and I mean that in the best way possible. This game completely caught me off guard when it made its way into my inbox, and much like most of you right now, I didn't know what to expect. But ooh baby, am I glad that I gave it a shot. This game scratched my Dark Souls itch more satisfyingly than all the other Souls-likes that I've had the pleasure of playing thus far. And it's all me and a few other members of the bonfire have been talking about for the last few weeks. Hopefully I'm able to show you why today. But this is the Backlogs. We don't just show off video games, we break them. And wouldn't you know it, 505 Games offered me a chance to do just that. So, with that in mind, can you beat Wuchang Fallen Feathers with only magic? Now then, a few disclaimers. First off, a big thank you to 505 Games for sponsoring today's video. Very bold of them to give me a key and ask me to challenge run their game before launch. But considering how much Dark Souls and Sultan Sanctuary DNA is in this game, I see why they did. If today's video convinces you that you want to play the game for yourself, it's on Steam, Xbox, and PlayStation 5. Use my link in the description or pinned comment to pick it up, and let 505 Games know I sent you their way. And who knows, maybe they won't learn their lesson and they'll ask me to break their game again in the future. And second disclaimer, while we'll be covering most of the game, 505 Games has asked me not to reveal the very end of the game, which may be disappointing to some of you, but to be fair, the game did just come out, and I can respect the wish not to spoil the ending. But with the disclaimers out of the way, let's get started. Another nightmare where I'm a YouTuber. Thank God that's not true. My pro gamer arthritis! Right, let's get into it. We are Wuchang, female pirate from the Shu Kingdom. There's only 3 things we know at the moment. We're hearing a female voice calling our name, we can't remember anything, and I've got feathers growing out of my left arm. Any of these things by themselves would be concerning, so needless to say, we should probably be a little worried right now. Well, we're not getting any saner. Might as well head out into the great unknown. And I'm now trapped in fog. Oh God, I think I'm lost. Dad? Oh, hi. You're not Dad. Well, whoever this is, they give us our sword, giving us nothing to go on, then disappear back into the fog just as quickly as they appeared. I mean, it's not magic, but it'd be a shame to leave such a beautiful sword just sitting here. I think I'll hold on to it for her. And with sword now in hand and a multitude of questions rattling around in my noggin, it's time to get this run officially started. Right then, let's go over the basics. Our first weapon is a long sword, which we wield in 2 hands. As to be expected, we've got light attacks and heavy attacks, which can be mixed and matched into several combos to meet your needs. The left shoulder buttons also have some moves on them, so we're not limited to just light and heavy attacks, but these are custom to the weapon you're wielding, a la Bloodborne. And you can tell what your weapon does by checking it out in the menu. Our current sword has 2. The weapon skill is specific to this particular longsword, the dash strike, which was that spin move you just saw. Its discipline is a blink kick, which is great for creating distance and knocking enemies off of cliffs. The difference between a weapon skill and a discipline is that disciplines can be swapped out for new skills. So if you're not a fan of the kick, you can upgrade it or change it entirely. More on that in a second. You'll also notice that there's a blue diamond next to these moves. This means that while you can do the move as much as you like, if you have 1 Skyborn Might, you'll perform a stronger version. What's Skyborn Might? That's Wuchang's version of mana. Whenever you dodge an attack, you gain Skyborn Might. At this point in the game, we can only have 1, but we'll gain the ability to have more as the game goes on. Unfortunately for me, the health item in Wuchang is called mana. What's worse, we use Skyborn Might to use spells, which makes it very mana adjacent. Confused yet? Yeah, me too. So, for the sake of this video, while I know we're not technically correct, I'm going to be referring to our mana flask as a health pot from here on out. And because Skyborn Might is a mouthful to say over and over again, we're just gonna call that mana. Cool? Cool. I make my way to the Reverend Temple, and find several items and NPCs scattered throughout. The items in this game are very easy to spot, and the color of the tendrils actually tells you what kind of item it is. Blue tendrils are regular items, like throwing daggers and healing items. Yellow tendrils are new weapons and armor, and the pinkish-purple tendrils are upgrade materials. You can also find magic spells just out in the open, but they're this weird, foggy white light. The good news is that you pick these up automatically, so you'll likely bump into them without realizing it. Back at the Reverend Temple, we go around meeting all the NPCs. First up is this Taoist monk, Shuangyang, who found us unconscious and put us in that cave to recuperate. He's very knowledgeable about our disease, which is appropriately called the feathering, and has been researching a cure for it for some time. Symptoms include memory loss, feathers, dislocated joints, and a sudden and uncontrollable desire to feast on human flesh. So, watch out for that. He also tells us that a note we had on our person indicates we have a companion, though who and where they are is unknown, and makes sure to warn us that the people around here attack anything feathered on sight, due to how contagious the disease is. We've also got Chow Lin, who was a local hero with his brother before he contracted the feathering. His brother is looking for something to help him, but no dice so far. He gives me a bloody amulet to give to his mother further up the way, and politely asks me to lie about his fate to her. Lie to an old lady. Got it. Can do. And lastly, we've got Yusha. Judging by her garb and the fact that she's got a bodyguard with her at all times, she's someone of higher status. But that's all I can glean for the time being. How's it going, buddy? Bodyguard life treating you well? Cool. We've also got Tao Ching, local merchant and opportunist, who will happily sell us some goodies later on if we bring him some key items throughout our journey. But with that sorted, let's dive a little deeper into the menus. We find a shrine, which we can offer blood to turn into a respawn point for ourselves, which gives us a lot of options, or will as the game progresses. For now, we've got 3. The warehouse is just where we can store any excess items that we don't want cluttering our inventory. Simple enough. Entering the dream is Wuchang's way of resetting the world around you, just like bonfires in Dark Souls, so you can actually rest at a shrine without resetting the world, which is really nice. And lastly, we've got the Impetus Repository, which is a big fancy way of saying skill tree. If you've ever played Sultan Sanctuary, this is going to be very familiar to you. Essentially, we'll be using this game's currency, red mercury, to buy levels. But unlike Dark Souls, where you pump souls directly into levels, it's more like Sultan Sanctuary, which means you can plug said level as a node into a skill tree. Right now, we've only got 2 paths, but as you can guess by the faded out nodes in the background, the further into the tree you get, the more nodes open up. If you've got enough red mercury, simply buy levels, then use the nodes that come from it to unlock new skills. And once you do that, whole portions of the tree will open up, giving you more and more options. I like this system. It keeps the skill tree from becoming overwhelming. But the best part? You can respec your nodes at any time, completely for free. So you can try as many builds as you want throughout your playthrough without risk. What's more, if you're not intimidated by choice and want to see all of your options when making a build, you only need a few nodes to open up large chunks of the skill tree. Just reset your nodes, then follow a path as far as you can. And when you reset your nodes again, that new portion of the skill tree will still be unlocked for your viewing pleasure, so you can plot out more intricate builds to your heart's content. Also, in case you didn't notice, not every node on the skill tree is a new skill. Remember how I said this is like Sultan Sanctuary? Well, this tree also has all of your stats sprinkled throughout the tree. So if you want more strength, health, stamina, you name it, you'll need to seek it out in the tree. To the tree's credit, the stat you need for a specific weapon type tends to be located all over its particular spoke. And with infinite resets, getting your build just right is nice and easy. Good stuff all around. Right, let's take a quick break, let that simmer for a bit. We head into the temple courtyard, then meet up with the boatman. He seems to know me, and claims that he and I are both wanderers of fate. Then he promptly bonks me on the head in an attempt to help me master the power in my left arm and rewrite destiny as we know it. Ow. Well, it looks like that bonk sent me back to the Foglands, and right smack dab into the first boss of the game. By Crew, horrifying beast of nightmares. Now, obviously, we've got a bit of a problem. We don't have any magic, and while I can generate mana by dodging attacks without any problems, we've got no way to actually fight back. During my test run to learn the mechanics, I did attack the boss a bit with my sword, since I assumed this would be one of those runs where we just have to wait until after the tutorial to start the run. But it turns out, this isn't actually the case. Because if you let Bai Crew kill you, we'll find out that this is the age-old trick of pitting you against a boss that you're not ready to fight yet. And when we respawn, the game gives us 690 mercury. Exactly what we need to level up once. Technically I have 990, but that's because I popped some mercury items I found earlier. Oh, and for those wondering, killing that boss gives you 5 free levels instead of 1. For my first node, I picked Skyborn Call, which increases my mana slots by 2. A strong start. And after wandering out of the temple grounds and finding my first weapon, the halberd, I think it's time we talk about equipment. Starting with weapons, there are 5 types. Longswords, short swords, halberds, spears, and dual swords. You can have 2 weapons equipped at any time, and there's no weight system in Wuchang, so you can equip whatever weapons and armors you like without worrying about stamina or equip load. Armor is split into 4 pieces: head, body, arms, and legs. And for those that are all about the fashion souls, you'll be delighted to know that you can alter your armor so that it looks like any other armor you own, while still retaining its stats. So you can have all the resistances that you need for a difficult boss fight, while still looking gorgeous. You also get 3 pendant slots, which give you passive bonuses like rings in Dark Souls, 4 spell slots, which you can swap out at any time you like, and 4 items on your hotbar, which can also be swapped whenever.
Over here.
Oh hey, someone who actually knows my name. You must be the friend I got separated from. Ah, yep, this is our buddy, Heiyuzai. Apparently, I wrote to him about how I found clues about my sister by you, but now that I've lost my memory, that search is gonna have to wait. For now, he says to head to the Shu Sanctum up ahead, and when I've searched that area for clues, we'll meet up again at the Tang Emperor's palace. And just like that, we've got some direction. I also found this lady over here.
Most would have lost their minds by now, but you remain in control. Here, take this. Let's see if you've got what it takes to wield that power.
Sorry, who are you? Well, whoever the red-clad lady is, she just gave me 1200 mercury. The mercury I've been finding is like 100 at most. So I'll ask again, who are you? Well, mysteries for another day. I sprint my way up some ramshackle platforms, unlock another shrine, and discover the teleport ability. Simply put, this is the fast travel system. You can go anywhere you've been. Just click the button. Oh, also, this is how the game hints that you've got a quest that needs doing. If someone at a location could be progressed further into their quest line, you'll see their faded image next to the location that they're currently at. It doesn't guarantee you won't miss a quest line, but something is definitely better than nothing. And after a little more exploring, I finally found my first spell, Vorpal Blade. Essentially magic missile, casting Vorpal Blade is as easy as pressing the Y button. It costs 1 mana to cast though, so we'll need to generate mana by dodging enemies before we can cast it. Also, while we're here, it should be noted that spells all have a type, and scale with certain stats. Vorpal Blade, for example, is magic type, aka arcane damage, and has level 1 scaling with my magic stat. From what I've seen, spells tend to scale with either magic or feathering, and have a scaling of 1 to 6. So this is a very basic spell. But for being a basic spell, it's really not bad. The missiles home in on their targets, and considering I have no points put into magic at the moment, they do some pretty hefty damage. The hardest part is regenerating mana. The dodge timing is a little tight at the moment, since I'm not used to the game yet, so I'm taking more hits than I'd like. But just like any other Souls-like, as time goes on, that timing will become second nature, so there's no need to panic. And with a spell acquired, we now have a way to generate mercury, which means we can level up, and hopefully guarantee that this run won't softlock on me from here on out. You'll love to see it. I get some more practice at dodging attacks, and enjoy the benefits of having a long range attack in a melee-focused game, then bump into the first actual boss of the game, the Tang Palace Maid. This two-headed maid is supposed to be your tutorial on how to backstab enemies, which is much like Bloodborne, since a charged strong attack will break an enemy's poise and open them up for a riposte. But for me, this boss is actually a tutorial for dodging and using spells. Because fun fact, spells are a little trickier than just jamming on the dodge and cast buttons. If you begin casting a spell and get interrupted by an enemy attack, your concentration gets broken and you lose both the spell and the mana it costs to cast it. And since every spell has a different cast time and animation, timing and spacing are very important. Luckily for us, this boss is very basic. So after a few minutes of practice, I'm easily able to blast her down to nothing with my Vorpal Blade. And for my reward, we get 1000 mercury and a benediction stone. New mechanic time! Benedictions are passive buffs that you can insert into your weapons. This one, for example, gives me better defense for a little while after generating mana. You can only insert these at shrines and only on one weapon at a time, but you can always put it into another weapon later, so don't think too hard about it. Also, there are 3 types of benedictions that you can slot into your weapon: Oath, Memory, and Wisdom. So be prepared to do a lot of mixing and matching for all sorts of fun builds. I find a very extravagant chest, which gives me a Forgotten Remembrance, which is an item that increases the amount of health pots I get from shrines. Good stuff. Now we just need to unlock the node in the skill tree that lets me use it, because just like everything else, that's part of the skill tree too. Boop! There we are, 4 health pots. Easy. I also found my first upgrade material, a faint red feather. And the way these work is actually different than what I've seen before. When upgrading a weapon, just like everything else, you plug the upgrade materials into the skill tree. Doing this upgrades every weapon of that type. So if you plug it into the longsword tree, all of your longswords are now +1. And just like everything else, you can always remove these nodes and put them somewhere else for free. So if a weapon isn't working out for you, or another weapon type would serve you better against a particular boss, you don't have to feel underleveled to give that new weapon a try. I find a spear, which unfortunately doesn't do me any good for this particular run, and also find my first new armor. and while it doesn't help with physical defense, it is better against elemental attacks. Oh, except for frostbite. I don't think I have to explain why. I blast my way through more enemies, then continue to the Lightzen Temple, where oh no. Oh no, chat, we fucked up. There's firebombs. I mean, we gotta try one. What kind of headmaster would I be if I didn't? I have regrets. Well, sort of. You can only carry 5 firebombs on your person at a time. So unless this game has Elden Ring levels of buffs and equipment upgrades, something tells me that run would have been dead in the water pretty much immediately. But if someone were to accidentally open Cheat Engine and make it so that you had unlimited firebombs... No, that's silly. You're silly. Why would you even consider that? 505 Games, I think I have another idea for a challenge run if you're interested. Daydreaming aside, I also found my first short sword, the Dark Frost Edge. Technically called one-handed swords, short swords are unique from the other weapons in that they give you a spell power boost, which means we just found our weapon of choice for the run. And if that didn't seal the deal, the first skill of the short sword tree will, Biding Time. Basically, this buff gives you 1 mana every so often while you're wielding a short sword. No dodging required. On top of that, the short sword skill tree has boatloads of feathering and magic slots, which means this weapon was clearly designed with spellcasting in mind. Exactly what we needed. And after slotting our benedictions over to our new weapon, we can now see Biding Time in action. Max mana acquired, and I haven't even left the shrine yet. This changes everything, because not only do we get free mana every so often, but casting spells actually increases our Biding Time stacks. The more stacks of Biding Time we have, the faster we regenerate mana. And the faster we regenerate mana, the more spells I can cast, which means the more stacks of Biding Time we have, you get it. We are now a spellcasting machine. Now, those stacks do deteriorate over time, so unless we're constantly casting magic, we will lose the self-sustainability after a while. And the stacks only go to a maximum of 8, so it's not like we can create some sort of mana dynamo build. At least, not yet. But give me time. We've only cleared a single boss, and something tells me that I'm only just getting started with this build. I find a new NPC, Wuchang, who will be another merchant for me as we continue the game. More on him later. I plug a few points into magic, happily discovering that some nodes are worth 5 stat points instead of 1, then find some awful pot beast thing in a nearby house. These things spit poison and attack extremely quickly, but they can be blasted down with magic just like everything else. And would you look at that, another red feather, which means I can now upgrade my short swords to +1, which at the time I thought was meaningless, since I can't actually attack with it. But after another few hours of play, I actually discovered that upgrading your short swords increases the spell power damage as well. So yeah, could have been even stronger. Whoops. I find some bandits talking about how they're hunting some kids, and how they've already, caught one, but there's still one more hiding around here somewhere. If I had any moral dilemma about killing the bandits before, I sure don't now. I pick up the doll that the unlucky child was holding, then continue exploring the area, killing all the enemies, and gathering a few more upgrade materials for my weapon and health pot. Oh hey, would you look at that? Enemies drop items sometimes, and not just poppable mercury, although that does tend to be the case more often than not. Sometimes, they drop the armor they're wearing. Yes, I hear you, you want the second Dark Souls region lock video. I'm working on it, I promise, stop yelling at me! And after finding some notes telling how the temple grounds have run out of food, and how the gates have been closed to keep the last of the meat from escaping, I find a golden bowl, which I can apparently give to Wuchang to access new inventory. Nice. But first, it's time to face the boss of this area, Master Raider, Man-Eating Dutanga. Dutanga has a monk spade, and does large sweeping attacks that have pretty easy to predict windups. But he also has some ground slam AoEs, which, thanks to our build being ranged focused, isn't a problem either. If anything, the biggest problem with this fight is my greed. Dutanga is very good at closing the gap, so spamming magic missile is not the way to go. But after learning his timing and chipping him down to half health, we can officially enter phase 2, where Dutanga sets his weapon in the arena ablaze and gains all sorts of fire attacks as well. Thankfully, his moveset hasn't changed that much, so dodging his attacks is still relatively easy. And, with a few more casts, that's another boss dead and gone. And for our prize, we get several items. A copper jug, which we can use to expand the shopkeeper's inventory, a bone needle, which I'll explain in a minute, and the Echo of Dutanga, a new spell. This spell is exactly what it sounds like, an echo of the boss's moveset, which gives me a temporary flaming monk spade that does fire damage. And if used against an enemy's back, it can even act as a charged strong attack, opening enemies to a riposte. Unfortunately, the only riposte you can do as far as I know is with an actual weapon, which would be against the rules. Starting now. Sorry, just wanted to show off the mechanic. Please excuse the 80 mercury I just cheated to get. That said, opening an enemy up for a riposte does give us a window where they have to stand still and not attack us. So if we have enough mana, we can still take advantage of this. and even if we don't, the damage and burn effect of the spade are strong enough as it is. Combine this with the fact that I just learned I can split up my magic missile targets, and we've got quite the wombo combo brewing. That said, this spell does cost 2 mana to cast, so it might be a bit before we can really squeeze it into our rotation. But hey, options. In other news, let's talk about the Bone Needle, and the new mechanic we just unlocked, Tempering. Tempering is essentially just weapon buffs. You take the bone needles you find, which have specific effects, and put them in your arm. Then, you use the Tempering ability to slide your weapon across your arm and apply the buff. Sounds amazing. We will never use this. Sorry in advance. But with another boss dead, it's time to move on. In an effort to humble me, my brain forgets how to walk, and I throw myself off a cliff, killing me instantly. And upon respawning, I discover a new mechanic that's been silently happening in the background, the Madness mechanic. See this red outline here? This has been slowly filling up every time I die. And now that it's full, 2 things happen. First, I now have the Madness buff, which means that I do more damage, but also take more damage as well. And second, my dropped Mercury, which I can normally just go pick up off the ground from where I died, becomes an enemy. An alternate version of myself called an inner demon. And this enemy is very difficult. If she kills you, all of your dropped Mercury disappears. So don't let her do that. But if you can kill her, you not only get all your Mercury back, but your Madness level drops back to 0%. For being a background mechanic, Madness actually has a lot of moving parts. For example, killing human enemies will slowly increase your Madness, while killing feathered enemies will reduce it. And that inner demon we just killed, turns out you can actually use it as a weapon, because it will attack anything and everything around it, not just you. And, on top of all of that, there are several skills in the skill tree that rely on Madness, like this spinning kick, where your attack gets stronger and quicker if you're above 90%, which means you can make builds that rely on Madness being higher or lower. That's foreshadowing, by the way. I find another NPC, Nyan Sai Chung, who appears to be the brother of that handicapped man from the first temple. Due to being thrown out before he can explain what he was doing there, he asked me if I can go get some medicine from the Shu Sanctum for him. Funny you should ask. That's exactly where I was going. Sure thing, pal. And for my kindness, Sai Chung gives me an emote and a bone whistle, which is essentially a summoning stone that can be used during boss battles. Now before you get too excited, no, there's no multiplayer in Wuchang. And the summoning mechanic only works if you've been progressing specific characters' questlines. So it's not an automatic easy button either. Kinda cool that the game rewards you for taking the time to help out the NPCs though. Oh hey, it's a small child. You must be the sibling of that other one that, well, you know. You okay, kid? Well, here. I have your brother's doll. Uh-huh. It's fine. I'm sure he's fine. Speaking of emotes, by golly there's a lot of them. You wouldn't think it, since this is a single-player game, but if you can't point down at bosses after killing them, can you even call yourself a Souls-like? There's some really elaborate emotes here too. The water dance itself lasts like 10 seconds, and you can even do Tai Chi. Because of course you can. Who needs the Fortnite dance, am I right? Oh god, someone's gonna add that, aren't they? But after hanging out with Jarkid a little longer and praising the sun for good measure, I make my way through the village, where the locals have all been infected by the feathering. And after following a slight detour across some bridges, I find a tunnel shortcut that leads to Doom Willow Beach. This location will be important later, but for now we can't get any further due to some unnatural flames blocking the path. But I did find another benediction stone for my trouble, the Skyborn Magic Stone. When plugged into my weapon, spell damage increases for a short time whenever I gain mana. So yeah, that's never getting unequipped. And after finding and immediately obliterating this game's version of crystal lizards, known as bamboozlings, I find an old storyteller hiding in a cave.
Ah, no, please don't eat me. I'm just an old bag of bones. I'll only give you indigestion.
Fear not, my friend. I am Wuchang, pirate of the Seven Seas, master of magic, and I've come to... never mind. I'm sure this guy isn't important anyway. That's foreshadowing, by the way. You know who is important? This panda. In case it wasn't obvious, the bamboo shoots that we get from hunting down bamboozlings can be given to this here panda, who in turn will give us rewards for feeding him, like this spear that can transform into a whip, or a spell that gives you extra defense. Anyway, moving on further into the village, we come across a rather difficult enemy. He's got a lot of health, he's very aggressive, and oh boy does he hit hard. But good news, we just got a new ability at the shrine, Invoking. Essentially, if you pray at the shrine, you can be granted items. Items that give you health, stamina regen, elemental defense, etc. And what does it cost to get these items? Not a thing. Well, okay, you have to gain some madness, but hey, free items! Now here's the thing. I've been poring over the skill tree, trying to make the most effective builds possible for this challenge run. And while my mana regen build is pretty great, it's a little rough around the edges when it comes to fighting hyper-aggressive enemies that don't give me a chance to generate mana. So let's make a second build that we can use to solve that problem. First off, we'll take Steel Resolve. This makes it so that if we ever deflect an enemy's attack, aka parry, we get 1 mana. But we have to have at least 50% madness in order for this to work. And oh, would you look what we have here in the longsword tree? Sword counter, which makes it so that you can use a block skill before an enemy's attack to parry the attack and negate 100% of the damage. And since we've got an extra node floating around, let's unlock variant 1 of sword counter, which makes it so that enemies we parry are stunned for a second or so afterwards. Now we just need some madness and we can test this build out. How about some feather pearls, aka homeward bones? Sure, I love free shit. I mean, we didn't need 100% madness, but if I'm not playing a glass cannon, I'm clearly doing something wrong. And just like that, my build goes from aggressive to defensive. But in all honesty, this feels great. It took some time to figure this out, but the parry window is very generous. I usually tried to block right as the animations hit me, but in reality, you can hold the block button for like half a second before an attack hits you and still be granted the parry, which sounds insanely tight. But consider this, one of the best parries in Elden Ring, the golden parry, is 14 frames. That's less than a quarter of a second window. So if you can parry with that, you can absolutely parry in Wuchang. There is one caveat though. In Wuchang, you can parry any weapon that comes your way, including some boss attacks, but only weapons. You can't parry magic attacks, and you can't parry martial arts. So if someone starts throwing fists, you better start dodging. But with my new build now in hand, we can return to the difficult enemy from earlier and absolutely ruin his day. And although I had to sacrifice a few nodes of the magic stat to get this build off the ground, I still have enough nodes to keep my short sword as my backup weapon, in case passive mana regen would work better for the situation. So we have the best of both worlds. And after stealing the guy's armor from his still warm corpse, and finally finding something close to resembling plate mail, I come across a weird looking item just floating in midair. Huh, strange. Guess I'll ignore that for now. Hi, Editor Lemon here. Turns out, this was supposed to indicate to me that there's an invisible bridge here that you can walk across. Personally, I didn't know what I was looking at, and I've seen so much magical shit at this point that I just assumed I was missing a skill or something to use whatever the yellow-green icons were. But yeah, the more you know. Guess we'll come back to this section later. I also found a statue closer to the sanctum, asking me to pay my respects. I recognize an emote puzzle when I see one. Let's go ahead and use the worship emote. See what happens. Well, alright then. Hopefully they're all that easy to figure out. I cut down all the bandits lurking around the village with relative ease, swapping between my long and short swords as needed to handle all the different enemy types around the map. Speaking of the maps, they're absolutely massive. Think Undeadburg and Lower Undeadburg combined, per area. Lots to explore, and lots of goodies to find around every corner. And while not every goodie is extremely important or valuable, it's at least something you can use. I was actually pretty impressed with how well the game lured me into exploring entire maps. Very Dark Souls 1 reminiscent. In fact, the map designs in general remind me of Dark Souls 1. It's non-linear in design, both vertical and horizontal, and never fakes distances. Combine this with lots of looping paths and shortcuts that make you go, oh hey, I recognize this place, and you've got the original Dark Souls 1 exploration experience. Fantastic stuff. I make it to the Shoe Sanctum, and find Wu Gang just vibing in a corner. Here buddy, have a golden bowl. And for my efforts, we now have a new shop to browse. There's some weapons here, some armors, and even some, oh come on, really? Game, please, I'm trying to be good, you gotta stop doing this to me. I also found the other merchant here as well, and give him Tuchanka's copper jug, which not only nets me some lore about the boss I stole it from, but also unlocks his armor. Oh boy, a mask made of human skin and prayer beads made out of eyes. Thanks. Now I do have one gripe with this whole merchant system. It's a small one, but hopefully the devs are watching and taking notes. You see how I can buy and sell from this merchant? Well, if I click on the buy option, I'm taken to the buy menu. All good, right? But let's say I realize I'm a bit short on cash and want to sell an item. I press B to back out, and I'm completely removed from the merchant. Which means I have to restart the conversation with Wu Gang, select sell items from my inventory, then back out of the merchant entirely again, just to restart the conversation, pick the buy option, and finally get my item of choice. Is this a deal breaker? No, not by a long shot. But it is several seconds of unnecessary time loss, when pressing B could simply take us back to the dialogue menu. Just a weird choice. Hope someone patches that. Minor gripes aside, I find the old lady that one injured man asked me to find, give her the amulet he gave me, and receive an item that actually does something instead. I mean, it just heals my madness, which is the opposite of what I want, but hey, maybe I can sell it or something. And after lying directly to her face, as I was asked to do, Grandma here asked me to go get the white jade dumpling from a nearby boss. It's a special dumpling that allegedly never disappears, no matter how much you eat it, and can cure any illness. Sure, why not? It's not like the boss that has it is hidden behind an invisible bridge that I skipped and won't come back to it for a few hours. I also found a white-robed elder who made fun of my memory loss and threatened to kill me if it gets worse. Good first impression, amigo. But enough of that. It's time for the boss waiting for me at the top of the Shoe Sanctum. It's Martin, the Geico Gecko! Oh, wait, sorry. False alarm. It's just some dude doing finger paintings. We're gonna be fine. Time for the Feathered Priest, Lu Bing Zhang. As we start the fight, the game lets me know that I could summon an ally to this fight if I want to. For the sake of the challenge run, I opted to never do this, but if this were a normal run, I could whistle and summon in Yen Sai Chung, since he and I are buddies. But who needs help when you can just dodge and weave like a madman and throw magic missiles across the arena? Oh right, me. I need help. On round 2, I decided to try my Fire Spade spell with positive results. And if I had been a little faster, I could have even swapped my magic missile to hit him again for more damage. Or maybe even dodged his grapple attack. Unfortunately, it doesn't appear that there's any way to shorten a boss's grapple once they've got you, so there's nothing to do but use that time to think about the error of your ways. That way the next time he attempts to grab you, you dodge it, then immediately give him a walloping for even considering grappling you again. The Feathered Priest is actually a nice little ramp up in difficulty. He has a lot more attacks than the previous bosses, and if you're not careful, he can even inflict the corruption status, which acts like a slow poison that drains your HP for 30 seconds or so. Curable with items, but it definitely increases the urge to panic. Thankfully, I have some armor that has increased corruption resistance, so I don't have to juggle my hotbar mid-fight, and though it was a close call and took several retries, the Feathered Priest eventually goes down to my flames, netting me access to the next area, some mercurial blood, a broken cane, and a new spell. The other items are just keys and merchant items, but the spell is what we actually care about. Our first feathering spell, this spell makes us jump up into the air and throw a spear of red mercury. It's a bit pricey at 3 mana a cast, and I haven't put any points into feathering just yet, but we'll keep it in mind for later. But with the key I got used, we can turn this giant pillar, which then unlocks this menacing looking basement, which in turn leads to a very deep, very poisonous mine. Thanks, I hate it. I do some eavesdropping to discover that there's another boss somewhere down at the bottom of this mine, and slowly realize that the ground I'm walking on is no longer earth, but some sort of fleshy red material that looks like bones? Are these bones? Oh look, now there are towers made of human remains that stun me by screaming at me. This is fun. This place is fun. Well, at least everything here is weak to fire, so we got that going for us at least. Ew. I find a pendant hidden among the dozens of tunnels around the mine, and oh, would you look at that? It makes firebombs stronger. Why would you? And after exploring even deeper into the mine, I finally hit the bottom, where I catch a glimpse at what the feathering looks like in its final stages, and find the next boss of the run, Blightweaver, the Great Centipede. This is a great fight. The boss zooms around the map in a slightly manic way, but it's still manageable as far as dodging his attacks go, and he can create a fog of poisonous gas that he can hide in. But because his raptorial forelegs glow, you can still mentally prepare for his next attack. Thoughtful design. Very good stuff. Now unfortunately, our damage seems to have dropped off a cliff, and I can only do 92 damage with my fire staff, or 66 damage with my magic missiles. But there are also several pillars around the map that we can lure Blightweaver into, which cause him to take damage. So that helps a little bit. As for our new spell, it actually does the most damage, and that's without any points in feathering to boost it up. But it also costs 3 mana, which means that magic missile is the most cost-effective way to go with my current build. And once the centipede hits phase 2, we can see exactly why we're not doing any damage. This thing is magical as hell, which means its magic defenses are probably through the roof. Alright, now where the heck did he go? Oh, never mind, I found him. But after revamping my build to have more points into the magic stat, I was able to up my magic missile damage from 66 to 88. Big change, I know. But despite my damage only increasing 22 damage per cast, it's actually enough to get me across the finish line. That's another boss dead, and a new spell and weapon acquired. The spell is that giant blue laser light show that the boss did earlier, which is awesome, but it costs 5 mana to cast and roots you in place for several seconds, which means it's not all that useful for me. The new sword, on the other hand, this thing changes everything. Not only is its spell power stat a little stronger than my other sword, but its weapon skill, Awakening Seal, is amazing for mana regen. It costs 2 mana to use, but after doing so, you gain 2 stacks of biding time and, from what I can tell, a boost to your mana regen speed. I can't say 100% for certain, since I don't have actual numbers in front of me, but after casting Awakening Seal, I can cast the magic missile spell as fast as I can push the button, and my mana regenerates about a second or so after using it, which means I'm launching spells every 2 seconds or so. That's a lot of damage downrange, and since I can occasionally re-up the buff with the mana I'm getting, I can stay in this loop forever, or as long as an enemy doesn't knock me out of it anyway. I return to the Shu Sanctum, where I give Nying Chung the object that will heal his brother, then make my way past the Centipede Arena, which finally brings me to Doomwillow Beach. Oh hey, would you look who it is? What's going on, buddy? Friendo explains that bodies that were infected with the feathering have been getting dumped here, and the bodies have infected the land itself. For being such a good friend, I give him his backpack, which I found lying around somewhere after he carelessly lost it on his way here, and in return, he gives us one of his journals, where he detailed a bit more of our history. Apparently, my sister and I joined up with his crew a while back, but unfortunately, it sounds like we clashed swords with someone called Li Zhao, and they killed my sister. Afterwards, I left the crew and came to Shu to find a way to resurrect her, and Heiyu Zai got a letter from us saying that I found a way. Shame we don't remember what that was. In other news, did you know there's a quick use mechanic? If you hold down X or Y, you'll pull up all the items on your respective hotbar, which lets you instantly use whatever item or spell you're looking for instead of scrolling through your options. The more you know. And nothing says I learned something new today like updating my skill tree. Oh god, Shrine Mimic! Shrine Mimic with muscles! Shrine Mimic with muscles! While it's not overly difficult, this stupid thing just made me doubt if any shrine will ever be safe again, because you just know they're not going to use this jump scare only once. But after analyzing the footage, I have two bits of good news. First off, when the Mimic dies, it does in fact spawn a real shrine in its place. So at least we're not left out in the cold. And two, there's an easy way to tell the difference between a Mimic shrine and an actual shrine. An actual shrine lets you offer blood, while a Mimic shrine only lets you interact. Shame I didn't realize this until editing this video. Would have really helped keep my heart rate down while playing. In any case, welcome to Doomwillow Beach. We've got Tonys crawling all over the ground, the trees themselves hate you. Oh, and don't forget the Dancing Pan Man. Gotta love the Dancing Pan Man. But after a lovely stay at the beach amongst the Lovecraftian coffins and what could loosely be called wildlife, I decide that this beach is a bit too crowded for my liking and beeline for the boss. But not before reanalyzing my build and realizing that I've been missing out on a crucial skill, Unbroken Focus. While above 90% madness, the biding time buff cannot decay below 3 stacks. That's a massive jump in mana regen, and considering I'm running around at full madness anyway for the extra damage buff, taking this skill is a no-brainer. Now all I have to do is cast my sword skill once, and bam, 3 stacks of biding time, locked in. And despite being killed in the last few seconds, I was able to kill a difficult enemy, which just so happened to give me a new spell. Burning Flames. 3 mana to cast, makes you jump backwards and launch several fireballs at your target. And what's this? Alacrity. The heck is that? Well, turns out, if you cast a spell that has Alacrity right before the enemy hits you, you phase out of existence and dodge the attack while still getting the cast off. A spell dodge, if you will. And hey look, there's even a skill that makes it that if you're at 50% madness, you regain 1 mana every time you trigger Alacrity. Which means that Fireball spell costs 3 mana to cast, but future casts of it technically cost 2 mana if you trigger Alacrity when using it. Oh, it also causes the Burning Status effect, which does additional damage over time once it triggers. Can't wait to use this spell on everything I see. Oh hey old man, fancy meeting you here.
I shall send you to the next life, should the power overwhelm you.
Still as charismatic as ever, I see. What was I doing again? Oh right, the boss. Say hello to the reborn treant, Soulwood. Soulwood is weak to fire, and despite having several tree root minions to help him and a vacuum attack that tries to suck you into his mouth, there's really nothing to say about this boss. Well, alright then, I guess there was more to say. So not only does the boss gain more mobs that crawl fruitlessly towards you, but he now has a fire breath attack that covers the arena in fire, and a sticky bomb attack that spawns a magic flower after it explodes, which you can quickly run over to get a charge of mana. And with that extra boost to our mana regen, we can quickly blast out multiple fireballs, then rush in for the killing blow with a well-timed magic missile. And there you go, another boss dead, and more goodies acquired. This time we got the Echo of the Soulwood, that sticky bomb attack he just did. Looks like it's 2 mana and causes corruption against any enemies it hits, but it also causes us to build up corruption as well. Tricky. I return to my merchants, who are now selling an amulet that gives me health back with every kill, then make my way to the next area, the Tang Emperor's Palace. Did you just throw a firebomb at me? Do you mock me, sir? Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. At this point, my build is generating so much mana and doing so much damage that the enemies aren't really worth mentioning. Almost every enemy is going down in 1 hit, whether it's the regular dudes with weapons, or the creepy pot ladies that try to ambush me when I'm picking up goodies. What is worth mentioning is how it was at this point in the game where myself and other members of the bonfire realized we were all playing a different game. See this riddle door? You can give it one of 2 answers, and I'll be honest, I don't know which one is correct. I gave it the feathered answer, which made it open up and teleport me to a whole new section of the palace, which in turn led me to the boatman. the NPC that bonked me on the head at the beginning of the game. If I had to guess, this interaction here is integral to helping choose which ending you get. But a Cain, fellow challenge runner of the bonfire, picked the winged ascension option, and the door just opened, giving him a benediction item instead. And while a Cain was extremely thorough in his search of the palace, he never found a way to reach this NPC, which implies to me that there isn't a way to reach him in that game cycle if you choose the quote-unquote wrong answer. And when a Cain pressed continue and I all compared notes at the end of our runs, it just got weirder from there. We're talking entire maps that some of us didn't see, hidden bosses that only one of us could access, and puzzles that the three of us solved 3 different ways. I went into this game thinking I would be getting Dark Souls 3, but I got Dark Souls 1, and I fucking love it. Oh hey look, it's the Tang Palace mate again. This should be a simple... Oh, so haven't seen that status effect before. That the one the game calls Despair? Yeah, that's fitting. Right, that's enough of that. Let's find the actual boss of this palace. It's gotta be around here No! Wuchang, please, my willpower is only so strong! Oh hey, I can confirm that the door choice is one or the other now. Guess we don't get that benediction stone on this run. But I do get a golden Buddha statue, which, if I place in this here altar, causes the water wheels in the area to start up again, and lowers the pond in the middle of the palace, revealing some sort of item embedded in the stone statue. I'll just take that, thank you very much. Hey, watch the grippers! Well, ladies and gentlemen, meet the boss of the temple, Commander Honglan. This boss is extremely aggressive, barely giving you any time to think, let alone cast spells. Forget about magic missiling your way to victory, I can barely get off quicker magic spells that I've been slowly acquiring along the way. The commander uses a mixture of weapon attacks and martial arts, both of which hit like trucks, and her range is deceptively large, so even if you feel like you're safe, you're not. Thankfully, I've got a build for that. Ha! Eat mana, you... Yeah, no, okay, I deserve that. So, several problems. First off, she's quick, so even when you can fend her off, she's able to dodge our spells. Second, that mixture of martial arts and weapon attacks makes it very hard to parry her, because until I figure out her attack patterns, half of those attacks make it past my defenses. And so, with no options left, that's exactly what we do. I start with learning her animations to better predict which attacks I can actually parry, then go spell by spell, trying to find something that can track her movement. Spoiler alert, I don't have many. Magic Missile's tracking is strong enough to hit her most of the time, but the damage is dog water, which would be okay if she only had one phase. But she doesn't, which means we've got a whole new set of moves to memorize. And the smaller our damage, the more chances we have to screw up. Oh, would you look at that? She's somehow even more aggressive. I didn't think that was possible, but there it is. Okay, yeah, no, we're gonna need something a little stronger. Our Mercury Spear attack has Alacrity, and does pretty decent damage, but that 3 mana cost is killer. And the Alacrity only dodges 1 attack, which means Honglan's Hyper Aggression will give us chip damage almost every single time. As for our Gabi Goo attack, it's actually not that bad. The cost is fine, and while the damage itself isn't great, the corruption buildup is pretty decent. And if we spec into Withering Touch, we can make the corruption buildup even faster, which means we can get corruption to trigger in about 3 casts. And a single proc of corruption actually does pretty significant damage, about 600. And at this point, I'll take whatever I can get. Unfortunately though, that second phase is just too much. Let's take a break and see if we can't find some new tools to solve the problem. Speaking of, Wugang actually came through with a new spell, Corruptive Flames. Another corruption spell, but this one launches multiple projectiles, costs just as much mana, and doesn't cause the caster to gain corruption. And while we're in town, let's go explore that half of the village that I failed to investigate earlier. Has this invisible bridge always been this obvious? Okay, no it wasn't. I guess it only looks like that when you take a step onto it. Well, at least I'm not crazy. The Corruptive Flames spell is pretty good too. Slow casting time, but the damage is good, and the corruption buildup might be enough to trigger with 1 cast, depending on the enemy. Further into the village, I found an enemy who casts fire magic and is surrounded by explosive barrels. Simple solution there though. Rather than enter his arena and engage him normally, let's just piss him off from above with spells, then make him fight himself. Oh hey look, a new spell. Infernal Flames. 2 mana, lots of burn buildup. Good stuff. Has a nice bit of area of effect as well, so if you're lucky, you can even hit multiple enemies with it. Alright, I've been exploring this side of the invisible bridge for over an hour now, and it's still going. How much of the game did I miss? But after exploring for even longer, I finally find what I was looking for. The boss I missed so many hours ago, Lu Hongliu. So, you're the one who infected me with the feathering, huh? I think I owe you a... Sorry, what was I saying? Alright, time to die. Okay, not exactly what I meant. Well, we're gonna have to try again, but first, something I missed on my first pass through of the skill tree. Fury of the Skyborn. A skill that reduces the cost of echo spells when you have 50% madness. When I initially looked at this, I thought echo was a type of damage, like fire or lightning. But what it really means is that all of those echo of such and such boss spells that we've been getting now cost 1 less mana, which means we just upped our damage potential. So with the build now improved, let's see what we can do. Alacrity, combined with the cheaper spells and the short sword mana regen, is an extremely powerful combo, since you can almost instantly throw another spear, and despite Luhong Liu going sicko mode and blood laser blasting all over the arena, and a last minute slip up where I failed to dodge a grapple that nearly ended the attempt, I was able to get off one last spear and end the fight. And for my troubles, the Echo of Luhong Liu, a howl attack that deals damage and flings back enemies around me, but at the cost of building up despair. Honestly, that build-up isn't terrible. Could be useful against weaker enemies. Roots me in place a little too long for most bosses though. I tell Grandmama that I've got her white jade dumpling she wanted so badly, and she ravenously eats it right in front of me. Sheesh, way to share. The dumpling does cure her dementia though, and she now seems to think that her son is going to become a great general in Cloudspire. So she's gonna go there to look for him. See, this is why we don't lie to people. Back at the merchant, we can now buy some truly ugly armor, but also a charm that increases our damage against large enemies. A little too vague for my taste, but everything is bigger than me these days, so sure, why not? Back against the commander, I decide throwing poisonous goo is the way to go, since it's now very cheap and very quick to cast. On top of this, I've actually found a bit of an exploit. More often than not, if you back away from the commander, she'll do this charge attack, which is very easy to parry. So now all we need to do is parry, cast, back away, and repeat. Phase 2, however, is not so easy to manipulate. And even when I do figure out her moves, she's now even faster. So half of the time, she can dodge my spells. You know, I'm starting to think that magic only was a trap. But after literal hours of practice, I think I've got it. Poison Claw for phase 1, Mercury Spear for phase 2. The alacrity of the spear is great in a pinch, but the reality is that I'm using its casting animation to create distance more than anything else. And after several gigabytes of attempts, we've got her. We have a cool anime duel where I get an illegal kidney shot in before I finally run out of energy, and the commander recognizes my sword and decides to leave me alive. And then I die anyway. Several days later, I wake back up at the Reverend Temple, where my buddy Heiyuzai dragged me. That guy's a champ. Remind me to go out for drinks with him later. The monk at the temple tells me that the next area, Snowfall Palace, is rich in red mercury. And since we don't have any other leads to go on, we might as well go investigate that to see if red mercury can in fact cure the feathering. Yuzai confirms that the chisel in the pond that the commander stole is in fact one of 4, and he thinks that if we collect all 4, we can resurrect my sister. So secondary quest, find the commander and get back the chisel. And lastly, Yusha informs us that the corpse of an old tyrant was seen being dragged to Zhenwu Temple. Considering evil dead tyrants are always resurrected in these kind of stories, it's a safe bet that another resurrection chisel might be there as well. Much to do, much to do. Well, at least the road to the new area isn't far. It's actually behind a door that we couldn't unlock earlier here at Reverend Temple. I love it when games do that. Yangsing Chung alerts me that the road to the Snowfall Palace is a cold one. It gives me some spicy soup to keep me warm. I do some Tai Chi at a very picturesque spot and get rewarded with a free level for doing so, hot damn. Then get alerted that the bandits up ahead are doing terrible things to the locals. I'm not going to go into detail about what they're doing, but suffice it to say that I'm about to go deliver some much needed street justice. Oh look, it's Grandmama, and she's hungry. Didn't I give you the eternal dumpling? How did you actually finish it? Oh whatever, have another dumpling. Right then. Onward to wherever this road leads. Oh, hello there. Jesus, what the hell happened here? I'm getting some real Ravenloft vibes. We've got exploding dudes, grisly-looking huntsmen who have bags full of people on their back that they rip into to cause waves of despair, and the only NPCs I can find are drinking heavily to cope. Hey buddy, can you tell me where the palace is? I'm a bit turned around. Is that a no then? But after wandering lost for a bit, I eventually find indicators that I'm on the right path. Well, at least I hope so. Surely Snowfall Palace isn't on a sandy beach somewhere, right? I find Wu Gang, who tells me the ingredients of the spicy soup, even though I really wish he wouldn't, and then we begin our trek through the snow to the palace. And it's here we learn about frostbite. As we wander around, our frost meter slowly builds. To counter this, we have 2 options. We can eat a spicy soup, which counters the debuff for several minutes, or occasionally stand in the sunlight, which will slowly decrease the meter. You can always buy more soup from Wu Gang, and the enemies drop some as well, so that's probably the better option. No, the frostbite isn't the problem, it's these damn archers. With magic, you can hit them from range, and thankfully you can parry their explosive arrows, but after a single hit from magic missile, they're too far pushed back to hit again. And their range is apparently the entire fucking map. So that's cool. But you know what's even cooler? Infinitely respawning exploding enemies. Oh, not enough for you? How about partially hidden mines in the snow? Yeah, everybody loves partially hidden mines. Yeah, no, I hate this place. In all fairness, this area isn't actually that bad. The mines are completely avoidable if you aren't rushing, the archer towers can be avoided if you know where they are, and the respawning enemies are actually a hint for how you can progress to the next area. Turns out there's actually 3 towers around the map, which, if you light them on fire, will not only signal the gate up ahead to open, but will also spread fire to the pillars responsible for respawning the enemies. So yeah, not as bad as I initially thought. I also found Mr. I'll Strike You Down near one of the towers. He's not doing so hot. Might be turning into the very thing he hunts. Oh, and I also found a new spear. We'll just go ahead and throw that in the trash. It's not like Wuchang. I swear to God, I shoot a cannon, because why the hell not? Do a little dancing on top of a mountain for yet another free level, then light 2 more signal fires, which gets the giant gate to the next boss to open up for me. Say hello to the Ming General, Lu Qingyan. Melee focused with a glaive that causes frostbite, he does seem a bit weak to burn damage, which, you know, makes sense. And while his attacks are a bit too quick for my short sword build, it's something my longsword parry build can't handle. Easy game for babies. Combine that with some powerful fire spells, and we're on to phase 2. In this phase, the general uses an ice sword and has new ice spells that he uses to keep distance, as well as some throwing dagger attacks and some underhanded tactics. Tricky stuff, but it's a fight to the death. Use what you got. Oh, and watch out for his grapple attack. There's a sound effect to warn you it's coming, so it's perfectly avoidable, but if it catches you, that shit is absolutely brutal, and eats through your health bar. In the end though, I changed tactics and pulled out Old Faithful, Poison Glob. The strat was incredibly simple. Build up 3 mana charges, wait for the general to do a longer attack animation, then blast him with 3 spells to trigger corruption. Let the poison do its work, and profit. And with the general dead, that's a new spell type added to my repertoire. A melee ice attack that builds up frostbite on enemies. A little slow, but you can't deny the results. Oh hey look, a new spell, Thunderstorm. And also an amulet that increases the damage I deal to enemies with full health. Terrible for boss fights, but great for basic mobs while exploring the map. Oh, by the way, you know how I've been getting madness from the shrines in order to keep up my skills? Turns out, I've had this maddening incense thing this entire time. It restocks at shrines just like your health pot does, and gives you 50% madness with a single use. Obviously not for every build, but yeah, much easier than running back to the shrine every time I goof up and lose my madness from dying. Oh, I also found a hidden boss, the General of the Bandits. He's a lot easier than the General of the Ming was, but he's got a really cool lightning bow attack that I want. As with the other general, the strat is actually pretty simple. Poison the boss for some damage over time, then pester him with magic missile to keep the damage nice and high. In phase 2, he switches to a more magic-based moveset, with flame attacks and lightning arrow barrages, but so long as you're constantly dodging, you'll be alright. Very cool fight. Glad the boys at the bonfire pointed him out to me so that I didn't miss him. And there we are. Lightning arrows. Nice and cheap. And it even has alacrity. Yeah, no, it's bad. The windup is too slow, and unless you're using it like a shotgun and getting all the arrows to hit one target, the damage is too low as well. Technically, the arrows are supposed to explode and cause the paralysis status effect, which lowers enemy damage, but because the arrows all pierce their targets, the explosions are nowhere near the enemies. I'll stick with magic missile, thanks. I make my way through the snowy city, find a benediction stone that increases frostbite buildup, which I'm sure will come in handy later, and find a group of kids that seem to be under the impression that they're going to rebel against the leaders of Snowfall. Remember kids, don't join gangs. Stay in school. Unless they offer you a reindeer hat, in which case, join all the gangs. One absolutely enormous map later, seriously, I'm skipping over hours of footage here, and we've finally arrived at Snowfall Palace, which is guarded by a man who throws firebombs, because of course he does. So while I beat this man to death, let's have a quick talk. In case the length of this video hasn't convinced you already, this game is massive. We're talking easily 30 to 40 hours of content if you sprint through the game, and double that if you actually explore. So, in the interest of actually finishing this video before the game releases, I'm gonna start skipping through areas a bit. Just wanted to be clear about that, so no one gets the impression that this game is just a boss rush. I fight my way through Snowfall Palace, which is in the midst of preparing for a wedding apparently, talk to an NPC that Doomwolf was very excited about, for reasons I'll leave up to interpretation, and found a new spell, Waspomancy. The first and only spell I've found so far that causes the Blight status effect. And a short time later, that same NPC is now a boss, and as expected by her attire, she's a mage. She summons corruption projectiles to fly around the arena while you fight, has several ice melee attacks, and when pushed into phase 2, becomes a giant ice wolf. Aw, look how cute that is. Oh god, look out. Eventually, I reverted to the tried and true method of killing bosses. Lots and lots of corruption. She's a bit too resistant for me to use my poison glob attack, but the corruption fireball attack is actually perfect. All I need to do is make sure I've got plenty of mana, then jam on the attack button to create wave after wave of semi-homing corruption damage. The homing property of the spell isn't nearly as good as my magic missiles, but it gets the job done. And for my prize, another corruption spell that summons a giant ball that fires smaller ones from its mass. Cool stuff, but a little too slow and expensive for my tastes. Beneath the boss arena, there's a pit. A pit filled to the brim with treasure and corpses. A young girl at the top mentions her sister was taken to the bottom of the pit and asked me to save her. And big marshmallow man that I am, I agree. The girl tells me to listen for a song that she and her sister always sing, since that'll help me locate her sister.
Sisters we are, sisters will stay. Sisters from birth, sisters till grave. Smithies they are, scissors they'll make. A tool for us to help us escape.
I'm gonna be sad after this, aren't I? The enemies down here are big and mean, and require several casts each to kill. Long gone are the days where we were one-shotting enemies. I find several scenes of gore and violence throughout the pit, which I'd rather not elaborate on, and discover that all the women who've been getting kidnapped have been brought down here, to see which one would be the perfect bride for the Lady of Night's son. And now that the perfect bride has been found, everyone that remains down here is now disposable. Awful stuff. Credit where credit is due though, Wuchang has absolutely nailed the creepy vibe. I'm physically uncomfortable down here. I find Commander Honglan trapped down here with everyone else, who asked me to help her escape as repayment for letting me live the last time we fought. And since she does have a point, I do just that. I'm sure that won't have a direct impact on the ending I get or anything. And at the bottom of the pit, we go just a bit lower and find the next boss.
Sisters are. Sisters will stay. Sisters from birth. Sisters till grave. Smithies they are. Scissors they'll make. A tool from us to help us escape.
Ah man, I knew this game was gonna make me sad. So here's a question for you. What do you get when you have a boss that's a healthy mix of martial, magical, and physical attacks, is already so corrupted that corruption attacks are essentially ineffective, and has a range that puts an ICBM to shame? Answer? 4 hours of footage! I kid you not, this boss took me 4 hours to beat. And I wasn't just banging my head against a wall that whole time either. I was remaking my build, dying repeatedly, reworking the build to get a little bit farther, then dying again. Eventually I discovered that her weakness is fire, so that helped a bit. But god, what I would give for the Flameglaive spell to be just like 5 feet longer. I swear, parrying the bosses puts them just out of range. And if you're not thinking 3 steps ahead and reacting immediately to a parry, the boss can dodge away from your attack even when you close the distance. And to top it off, you can't just jump right into the boss fight when you die. You have to take an elevator down to the arena. Every single time. Hey future game devs in the audience, put a checkpoint next to your boss arenas. Then, after dozens of deaths and build reworks, I've done it, and the perfect bride finally dies. What? No. No, don't you dare. Don't you fucking dare. I just spent 4 hours beating that boss. Don't tell me it's got a second phase. So yeah, it's got a second phase. And holy shit is it aggressive. We're talking sprinting across the arena at you, laser beams everywhere, and rapid melee attacks that can't be parried. So you better get good at dodging. Should've listened to my own advice. And if you die, it's back to the elevator with you, and back to phase 1. We're gonna be here a while. And you know what that means. It's time for a montage. Oh my god, it's over. After hours upon hours of attempts, it's finally over. And for our prize, we get our second chisel. 2 more to go. By the way, these aren't just story objects. The first chisel we started the game with actually acts as a homeward bone and lets you warp back to the last shrine you rested at, while this new chisel lets you access the benediction menu at any time, instead of just at shrines. This means you can swap those benediction stones on your weapons on the fly. And for someone like me who has a very specific set of stones for their build and needs to swap them between weapons repeatedly, this is a godsend. Oh hey, it's that little girl from earlier.
Ling and I, along with several others, were abducted to be forced into marriage. She was always so strict, never letting me eat my fill. In time, our bodies wasted away. And then she told me that starving ourselves thin was our only chance of escape. Mama is mean, and Papa is stern. There's nowhere left for me to return.
Oh, good. Their story is even sadder than I thought. Hang in there, kiddo. I promise it gets better. Not for me, though. I get to go through caverns full of human skulls and monsters. Because God forbid my sanity get a break, am I right? Oh, thank God I wasn't lying to the little girl. Yuzai found her and is escorting her back to somewhere safe. Thank God he's not struggling to remember things or feeling weaker than normal. Uh-oh. Well, no time to worry about that. Time for a completely unnecessary and optional side path into some mystical woods, filled with magic-resistant bird people, magic men who cast exploding flowers at me, and horrible clam monsters that give me nightmares. But make your way through the endless winding branches and roots, and you get to fight an optional boss, the Bow Sorcerer, Avian Magic Lady of the Forest. I won't linger here too long, since this is an optional boss, but all you need to know is that she has a multitude of magic attacks that she uses from long range, and can easily close the gap to kill you with physical attacks as well. It took a little bit to figure out which of her attacks I could actually parry, and which ones I couldn't, but once you realize that most of her attacks can be dodged through, so long as you dodge towards her, and not away, the fight becomes much more manageable, and you can start to focus on returning fire, instead of staying on the defensive. She's humanoid, so she's susceptible to backstab attacks, which we can take full advantage of, and she's also relatively easy to poison if you're willing to build up the mana to cast the poison spells. Only one problem with that one though. Turns out, Blight is both extremely strong and incredibly weak at the same time. It can do an excessive amount of damage, as you can see here, but only once. If you were to proc Blight a second time, it would just refill the empty portion of the health bar without doing any damage. The reason behind this is because Blight isn't actually doing damage, it's just reducing the target's maximum health. So proccing it again is useless, since you're just shrinking the same portion of the health bar again. Big bummer. Well, at least the Sorcerer's grab attack is fun. It's almost like we're dancing. Whoa! Okay, that hurt. Wait, what are you doing? Wait, no, stop, we're gonna get demonetized! But, after dropping a couple dozen gigabytes of footage on the cutting room floor and losing several hours that I'll never get back, it's finally over. And for my efforts, an Ice Storm spell that costs 4 mana to cast, or 5 if I don't have the madness to reduce the cost. Worth it. Oh hey, look, it's Jar Kid. What up, little buddy? Oh, you're hungry? I found this earlier on the ground. It's a little dirty, though. Do you even have a mouth? But with that distraction now out of the way, we can get back to the main plot and head to Zhenwu Temple. I meet up with Wu Gang, who's still kicking somehow, and he's got some new goods for me. I have regrets, but after exploring multiple buildings from the ground floor to the rooftop, I eventually find one of the bosses of this area, Liu Wenshu, lightning swordsman and probable madman. Thankfully, this fight did not take several hours to beat, mostly because I learned very quickly that this boss is incredibly susceptible to corruption. All I had to do was cast a single globule at the boss, then relax for 10 seconds while the damage did its thing. Finally, a break in the difficulty. Probably the last one we're gonna get before the end of the game, but we'll take it. I do some platforming puzzles to change up the pace a bit, prove that the game did in fact have the balls to include more mimic shrines, then finally, after hours of exploring the temple, come across the boss. Creepy flesh tree, floating bodies, and an angry mutant tiger? Oh yeah, you're definitely final boss material. Phase 1 is simple enough. Dodge the lightning balls, fail to dodge the laser breath, and get royally creeped out by the fact that the tiger has human legs. Why does it have human legs? Naturally, the tiger also has a charge attack, which is a little tricky to dodge, but he is weak to fire, so it's only a matter of time before we can burn him down. And although it was a little messy, there you go, tiger dead. And as expected, that wasn't his only phase. Told you this boss had Final Fight vibes. Ew. Ew. So, let's talk about the Sovereign. This boss is all about big effects all over the arena and trying to split your attention. He has all the same attacks as phase 1, but with probably an additional 5 or 6 more area of effect attacks and glaive swipes that he can do to keep you guessing. Thankfully, he's just as weak to fire in this phase, so we don't have to completely alter our approach. We just have to get good at his moveset. And, despite him looking pretty intimidating at first, he's actually not that bad. And after a few failures, it's not long before the Sovereign is dead and gone. And with him dead, we've gotten another chisel. This chisel gives your health pot maximum healing potential, which is an interesting choice of upgrade, considering this is the final boss. Wait, what do you mean that wasn't the final boss? What do you mean this is only the end of chapter 3? Oh god, how fucking big is this game? Also, for those of you that didn't notice, we're back at the beginning of the game. This is the first village. Well, was the first village. It's seen better days. Much like the first time we were here, there's lots to do. Our inner demon has turned into some sort of mini-boss, who you'd think I would be good at fighting at this point, since I've fought her so many times. But nope, she's jumpier than ever, very difficult to hit with my spells, and can kill me in a single combo now. And yes, before anyone yells at me, I've been pumping into health and stamina. She's just that strong. I tried several spells to see which would be most effective against her, but I'm gonna be honest, none of them do any damage. My best bet so far has been the Frostbite spell, since Frostbite itself does massive damage when it triggers. The only problem is the range. Getting hits in is hit or miss, if you'll excuse the pun, which makes the fight a bit unpredictable. Oh, and she can use a health pot when you get her down to 25% health. Because of course she can. She's me, remember? But then, a realization. I have more than one ice spell, and this one is long range, has multiple projectiles, and locks onto its target. Oh, that's better, much better, let's go. Now, it's not always that good, since the projectiles do have a chance to miss her, with her being as jumpy as she is, and building up the 4 mana it costs to cast it does take a pretty significant amount of time, since the Nightmare Demon is so aggressive that I have to use my longsword build to fend her off. But, after a hard-fought fight, my inner demons get squished back deep down inside me, where I can ignore them until I die from stress-related illnesses 30 years down the line. I make my way back to the Reverend Temple, and find Mr. Silent Bodyguard. Looks like the feathering finally got to him. This is a weird fight, considering we're surrounded on all sides by enemies that are attacking us both, and he even delivers a bit of lore while we fight. Sounds like I owe Yusha a thank you. Don't worry though, I'll give it to her in person. Which I do almost immediately afterwards. Unfortunately though, it appears she's discovered something about my bloodline, and asked me to finish what my father started, repressing a rebellion against the Emperor. And while that sounds nice and all, it would appear I haven't made the right storyline decisions to accept the offer. Bummer.
Why are you still here?
Woman, I am playing this game as fast as I can. In reality though, it's clear this chapter holds a lot of very important decisions as far as the story goes. Every character I've been helping along the way is here, assuming they're still alive anyway, and it seems like each one of them has a decision for me to make. But we don't need to worry about that. We just need to finish this challenge run, and the only way to do that is to go back to the cave where it all began. Oh, that's not good. And so it begins, the final boss of Chapter 4, because somehow this game still has an entire chapter left after this. This is the Reborn, the one true dragon that all the NPCs keep talking about, a great general reincarnated. And this fight, man, this fight. Remember the moon presence from Bloodborne? Good. Now take that fight and pretend it wasn't the easiest fight in the game. That's the Reborn. Beastie here has all sorts of slam attacks, can scream to stun you in place, and has no safe spaces to attack him from, since he has full control of his tail as well. Tellingly though, his moveset doesn't change once you get him below 50% health, which means we've got another second phase health bar boss on our hands. And sure enough, after just managing to survive a ground slam attack, we roll into phase 2. Bestial no longer, the boss transforms from the Reborn to the Dragon Emperor, complete with longsword and bipedal legs. Alright, let's do this. Oh shit, he can summon dimension doors. Wait, what are you doing over there? Hey buddy, that's big enough, okay? Buddy? Oh god, he can't hear me over the black hole he's summoning. It's fine, everything's fine. Okay, well that... Well, you may be able to summon supernovas, but joke's on you, because I can summon spear... Please, please, please tell me I did not just see my spell get sucked into his magic D20. Oh, god damn it. So, it appears that the Dragon Emperor has a legendary resistance that makes him immune to spells, which, as you can imagine, is a slight problem. But thankfully, there's hope. After another hour of throwing every single spell I have at him, I was finally able to determine that some spells can make it past his D20. Namely, melee spells and, for some reason, the storm attacks. So the run's not dead quite yet. But don't get too excited. We've got one hell of an uphill battle ahead of us. Only his basic sword swings are parryable, so we're gonna have to get really good at dodging his attacks if we're going to generate mana quickly. But why do we need to generate mana quickly? Well, that's because this boss is a DPS race. Every so often, the boss uses a health drain attack, which steals huge amounts of health from you and heals him at the same time. Oh, and don't forget that you need to fight through the first phase again every single time you die. So you'll want to get good at that fight too, otherwise you won't have enough health pots for the Dragon Emperor. But it's just a matter of learning his moves, right? I mean, we found some spells that can do damage, and so long as we can stay out of his health drain ability, it's not like he can regenerate health. Son of a bitch, he can regenerate health with or without us in the circle. This is bad. This is very bad. Hey developers, why'd you do this? I get it, hard bosses are supposed to be hard, but there's like 1 second to react to him starting his health drain attack, and the fact that he heals even if I do avoid the attack just feels bad. Now in all fairness, I'm challenge running the game, and it's incredibly obvious that this boss is the hard counter to my build and playstyle. So, in the interest of making sure I gave this boss a fair shake, I talked to a few other creators who were just playing the game normally to see if I was just being salty. Unfortunately though, the results are inconclusive. One of the creators I talked to had the same struggles I did, with his boss regenerating right as he was about to kill it and ruining his run. But the other creator I talked to didn't even notice the health regeneration. In fact, he said he wasn't sure he saw the health drain ability at all, which means that creator either had god tier RNG or there's something else going on here. Maybe my mana is charging up his D20 and that's letting him use the ability? I'm honestly at a loss. Hopefully when the community at large gets their hands on this game, they'll be able to figure out exactly what's happening. But until then, I've got a boss to kill, which means I've got to find the correct spell for the job. A spell that can do heavy amounts of damage quick enough to counteract the roughly 15% health that the Dragon Emperor regenerates every time he uses that ability. And despite countless attempts of trying to get burst damage like Frostbite to work, the strategy I ended up leaning into was Thunderstorm. It only takes 3 mana to cast, which doesn't take much time to generate with my short sword build, and because this boss doesn't dodge around like a goddamn wiggle worm, most of the bolts of lightning will hit him, giving us just short of 1,000 damage with each cast. Hell, we can get almost 1,400 damage if every single bolt hits. But we're gonna need it. If his attacks are truly randomized, RNGesus must hate me, because the Dragon Emperor uses that health drain attack over and over again, sometimes with less than a minute between uses, and I've got the timestamps to prove it. He used health drain twice in 46 seconds. One of the few upsides to this strategy is that he's almost always paralyzed, which means that all of his attacks do a little less damage to me, which is great because oh my god, he's doing it again. Dude! We've got no choice. With most of my spells nullified and this bastard's health regen coming through at a near constant rate, the only hope this run has is for me to be hyper aggressive. No defense, all offense. And with that mindset, I'm able to knock him below 50% health and into phase 2. An accomplishment that the Dragon Emperor celebrates by healing even more than the first phase. What the actual fuck? Wuchang, I'm begging you, please just let me have this. I've reworked this build over 50 times and I've memorized all the attack patterns as best I can. I'm completely out of health pots and I'm running low on health consumables. I just need this fight to stop fucking healing. Okay, one more spell, Lemon. Just one more spell. Just get your 2 mana back, cast the spell, and why are you like this? Okay, you're out of health items, but it's okay. You can do this. Just blast him. One more. Just one more. Just get the cast off and we're home free. You know what? This is punishment, isn't it? This is what I get for ignoring the fact that firebombs were a possibility. I just had to be all legitimate. Oh no, firebombs only is impossible. You can only hold 5, 10 if you count both types. Even with all the buffs the game offers you, there's no way you can make it through all the bosses without an infinite consumable cheat on. Like this fucker apparently has with healing. Did you see that? That's twice in a row. This fucker healed twice in a row. Did I kick a puppy in a past life? Is that what's happening here? God's teeth. Well, whatever it was, the curse finally breaks. My dodges are impeccable, my mana flows freely, and unlike last time, I keep my greed in check and get the final cast off without dying. Whew. Okay, someone write this down. I want it recorded. Magic only is a trap. Do not, I repeat, do not do this challenge run. That was the hardest fight I've had all year. And while the Dragon Emperor is defeated, he's not quite dead. And asshole that he is, he decides I don't deserve my victory and explodes, bringing us to chapter 5. And outside of this very evocative loading screen, that's all I can show you of the rest of the game. I know, I'm frustrated too. We went through all of that, and I can't even show you the end. But for what it's worth, as someone who has been playing around in Chapter 5, yeah, I can see why they want me to save it for you. This game was fantastic. I know that last boss was a bit rough, and I do hope they tweak him a bit so that he can only heal if you're in the health drain aura, or maybe only use his health drain attack a certain number of times per fight. But it's important to note that he was a hard counter to my build. There was no way we were getting out of that fight unscathed. So even though he isn't the last boss, for the purposes of this video, he was the perfect fight. But yeah, fantastic game. Very glad I got to play this. And the best part is that even with 2 other people playing the game alongside me, every time we got together to discuss strategies, the most common phrase in Discord was, "Wait, what? I didn't see that." And that right there transported me right back to when I played Dark Souls for the first time. Sprinkle in the fresh mechanics, the Salt and Sanctuary skill tree, and the fact that there's not 1, not 2, but 4 separate endings. Yeah, I'm gonna be coming back to this one. From what I can tell, I missed multiple weapons, over a dozen spells, and even entire maps and bosses. Look at the length of this video. How did we miss so much and still have so much to talk about? Hell, we skipped an entire 1/5 of the game. I skipped over storylines, NPCs, entire sections of the map, and none of it was trivial or time-wasty either. I just skimmed over it because my voice is giving out from all the yapping I've been doing for the last hour. I guess what I'm trying to say is that if you like Dark Souls and haven't been able to scratch that itch, give Wuchang a try. And if you do, tell me what you think in the comments. I'm curious to hear if anyone else feels the same way that I do about it. A huge thanks once again to 505 Games for sponsoring this challenge run, and a quick reminder that if this video was enough to pique your interest, you can use my link in the description or pinned comment down below to let them know that I sent you. And who knows, maybe if enough people watch this video, we'll be able to convince them to remove the item limit on the firebombs. Who are we kidding, I'll do it myself. But that's for another time. Until then, That's all I've got. Take care of yourselves, be good to one another, and I'll see you all again soon.